Hey everybody, I am so excited for the recipes in today's video. If you're like me, you have chicken as a staple ingredient in your household, and sometimes it can get a little bit boring, and I'm always looking for new ways to use it. So the recipes in today's video are 3 new recipes that we tested out this week, and they were all amazing. I know that you will love them. So let's go ahead and get into the first recipe. The first recipe in today's video is for this hot honey chicken, and you're just going to start out by crushing up some cornflakes. I did half this recipe, so just for reference, and normally I would use a rolling pin, but I'm just going to use my hand here, and I put them in a Ziploc bag just to get them crushed pretty finely. You could also pop them into your food processor if you prefer. And then I'm going to go ahead and put them directly into a pie plate. That's how I like to do a dredging station, is with pie plates. And then to that, you're going to add in some Parmesan cheese along with some garlic powder, onion powder, and some paprika. And then you just want to stir all of that together until it is well combined. And then we're just going to prep our second station, which is going to be the eggs. This recipe was really easy to throw together, and I love that it bakes in the oven so you don't have to worry about deep frying it. For the eggs, I'm just going to put 1 egg into my other pie plate, and then you're going to add in some hot sauce and then whisk that together until it is well combined, and then we are going to season up our chicken. Now, the recipe did not call to season the chicken, but I wanted to do so, so I went ahead and added some salt and pepper to both sides of it before dredging it in our stations. For the chicken, I used chicken breast that was very thinly sliced. You can also do chicken tenderloins, whatever you prefer, but if you do a smaller or thinner piece, it's just going to cook more quickly. So we're going to go into the egg, then into the cornflake mixture, back into the egg mixture, and then into the cornflakes. So you don't have to do this, but the recipe did say that if you do a double dredge that it's a little bit crispier, so I went ahead and did that. By the end of it, I kind of needed a little bit more egg from going back and forth and the cornflakes kind of falling into the egg mixture, but it turned out perfectly. So after I have all of those together, I'm just going to put them on a parchment lined baking sheet, and then we are going to spritz them with a little bit of olive oil, or you can drizzle it with olive oil, and that just helps for it to get a little bit crispy when it is in the oven. So this is going to bake in a 425-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on the thickness of your chicken breasts or tenderloins. And then while that's in the oven, we're going to prepare the hot honey sauce that's going to go on top. So you're going to start out with some honey, and my honey was starting to crystallize, but since we were melting this down, I didn't worry about it. And then you're going to add in some hot sauce, along with some cayenne pepper. Now, I used the smallest amount. The recipe said anywhere from 1 to 3 teaspoons. I did 1 teaspoon, and it was still really hot to me. So just keep that in mind. You're going to want to adjust that based on your heat preference. You're also going to add in some chili powder and garlic and onion powder, along with a little bit of salt. And then once the chicken was done, I went ahead and just popped this on the stove, and you're just letting it melt together. So I just put it on like a low heat and let everything combine together until it was nice and smooth, and that honey melted perfectly. So even though mine was starting to crystallize, it came out perfectly. So then once the chicken was done, I took it out of the oven, and you can see it here. It was so perfectly crispy, and I'm going to show you, I sliced one of them so you can kind of see inside of it. It was so juicy and just absolutely cooked to perfection. So to go on the side of this, I wanted to make some Greek green beans, and this recipe just combines some lemon juice. So I did fresh lemon juice along with some olive oil, and then I did garlic powder instead of mincing some garlic, just because I was being a little bit lazy. And then you want to add in some dill and paprika and just whisk all of those ingredients together. Another thing I changed with this recipe is I just used a bag of frozen green beans that I cooked in the microwave according to the package directions, and then I just drained them really well, and then you're going to toss them into a bowl. And while they're hot, you want to go ahead and season them with some salt and pepper, and then you're going to add on the dressing that we made earlier. You just want to toss everything well together to combine. The recipe also called for olives, which I left out because neither my husband nor myself like them. But the recipe says you can serve this at room temperature, which is what we did. And then I had the leftovers the next day, heating them up in the microwave, and they were delicious warm as well. So whatever you think you would prefer, it honestly would be delicious. So once I had that plated, I added some feta cheese to mine. My husband does not like feta, so I left them off of his green beans. And then I just drizzled that hot honey sauce on top of the chicken. And like I said, it was spicy for me, so I only put a little bit. And I'm going to show you my husband's plate here. He doused it and absolutely loved this recipe. Today's video is in collaboration with Kirsty Pickens, so I will have a link in my description box below so that way you can check out the chicken recipes that she made for you this week as well. I know that they're gonna be delicious because she is always making something that looks so good. So make sure that you go ahead and check out her video after you're done watching mine. And if you're coming over from Kirsty's channel, welcome. My name is Ashley and I'm so excited to have you here. I would love for you to subscribe and join my YouTube family if you like what you see here and you're always looking for new recipes. I love sharing them. But let's go ahead and get into the second recipe. The next recipe is for balsamic chicken, and oh my goodness, this recipe could not be any easier or quicker to make, and it was so good. So I'm just going to start out by combining the ingredients for like the sauce and marinade, which is going to be some olive oil along with some balsamic vinegar, a little bit of soy sauce, and then this recipe also called for minced garlic, but again, I just substituted the garlic powder. I don't know what was going on with me this week, but I was just too lazy to mince up some garlic. So I just substituted the garlic powder and it still tasted amazing. And then you're also going to add in some oregano. So I was at the end of my jar of oregano, so I had a little bit less than the recipe called for, but it still turned out well. And then just seasoning to taste with some salt and some pepper. Now the recipe says to combine these ingredients and put it over your chicken, and then if you can to let it sit for about 10 minutes before popping this in the oven. I went ahead and put my chicken in this marinade and popped it in the refrigerator. I covered it with some plastic wrap and I let it marinate for a couple of hours before I put it in the oven, just because I had the time and I wanted to prep the dinner earlier in the day, and that turned out really well as well. So if you want to do that, it does work out really well. And if you don't have the time, like I said, the recipe says if you're able to do 10 minutes before putting in the oven, to do that. But then you're going to pop this in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. And then we just had it with some rice and it was absolutely delicious. Next up, we made this brown sugar barbecue chicken, and I get the saying save the best for last because this was absolutely amazing. My husband and I were raving and I cannot wait to make this again. It was so easy and so delicious. So this is a crock pot recipe. I just went ahead and sprayed my crock pot with a little bit of olive oil because there is brown sugar in it and I thought that it would stick, but it didn't. I probably honestly didn't even need to spray it. But then you're going to add in your favorite barbecue sauce along with some brown sugar. The recipe called for bourbon, which we don't have on hand and I wasn't going to buy, so I left it out and it was absolutely amazing. It was so good. And then I added in some garlic powder, some paprika, some salt and some pepper, and then it called for Italian dressing, but I just used this packet of zesty Italian dressing mix and just put that in there by itself. Then I just stirred everything together before adding the chicken in, and oh my gosh, I'm telling you, this was so good. So crock pot, you could do it low and slow. I was in a time crunch, so I put this on high heat and it only took about 2.5 hours because the chicken breasts were thinner to cook. And but whatever you need to do, if you want to have it in the crock pot earlier in the day, you can put it on low. And then once you come back in, you can see here that it just shreds apart perfectly. It was so tender. So I'm just going to go ahead and shred the chicken up into the sauce. And then I, at this point, switch my crock pot to keep warm while we prep everything else that we were going to have with the dinner this evening. So we're going to turn these into sandwiches, and the recipe suggested having coleslaw, which is the perfect addition with this barbecue. So my husband is kind of making the coleslaw here. We just use a bag of pre-shredded coleslaw mix. Then you're going to add in some sugar, and he likes to do apple cider vinegar along with some mayo, and he also adds in a touch of sour cream, which I had never even heard of, but he enjoyed doing that. And then he added in some Cajun seasoning. For our side this evening, we wanted some corn on the Blackstone. It is absolutely amazing and so easy to make, so Matt is making it here.
That's the secret, huh? Extra butter on the top.
Yeah.
Nope. So how much butter goes onto 2 ears of corn?
1 stick.
1 whole stick?
No.
You're joking.
I don't know, like a half a stick.
Okay. So that's what makes it good.
Yeah.
He had me cracking up because he does put a lot of butter on this corn, but it is so good. If you ever make corn in the Blackstone, you do not have to like boil it or anything ahead of time. He just puts it directly on to the Blackstone with some butter, and then he puts the lid over it and sprays some water in so it can start to steam a little bit. And then we also seasoned it with the Cajun seasoning that we have been loving. But corn on the Blackstone is absolutely amazing. So if you have a Blackstone and haven't done it yet, I highly, highly recommend it. And he cooks it at about a medium heat. And then of course, when it comes off the Blackstone, you have to top it with more butter, right? Since we had the Blackstone on from cooking the corn, we went ahead and toasted our hamburger buns on there as well. Obviously, if you don't want yours toasted, you don't have to, or you can do this inside if you're not, using your Blackstone that evening. But they toasted up really quickly and easily on the Blackstone. So like I said, we just had these sandwiches served with the barbecue chicken, the coleslaw, and some of the corn, and this was absolutely amazing. You have to try this recipe. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. I hope that you enjoyed seeing these recipes. If you give any of them a try, please let me know in the comments down below because I would love to hear what you think, and I will see you in the next video.